Y'all, we are so close to the end game now, and the probable winners are looking more and more obvious each day. I'll admit the gameplay isn't the best these days, but sometimes the bad gameplay is a lot more entertaining anyway. There's going to be a lot to go over today, including some of the terrible strategy that's being implemented right now. But before we get into all that, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you have not already. Like I said, the gameplay can still be very interesting in the end game, so there is still a lot to talk about on the feeds. Plus, I also talk about other shows from time to time too, so please make sure you're subscribed here for more reality TV content. Now, let's get started. So like we just saw, Leah and Angela were both just evicted unanimously, the first and only unanimous votes of the season. In my last video, I had mentioned how targeting Leah and Angela were both pretty bad moves for MJ's game because neither one of them were coming after her at all. Now they were both targeting her allies, which normally would be a red flag, but this close to the end game, I think it actually would have been pretty convenient to let somebody else go ahead and take that shot for her. Now MJ did eventually realize that targeting Leah was a mistake after she nominated her, but of course by then it was just too late. There was this last minute push to try to save Leah, it just really didn't end up going anywhere. Chelsie and Cam just were not going to budge on their vote, so alas, Leah had to go. So now with Leah out the game, the house guests are going to move on to the double eviction where we see Chelsie win her third HOH of the season, which I thought was very impressive. Now there was the split second during the double where I thought that Chelsie may just take a stab at MJ here. She had been alluding to it last week since MJ has proven herself to be so good at competitions, but as we saw, Chelsie instead decides to target Angela here, which honestly I think was probably the better move for Chelsie anyway. After all, MJ has proven to be way more moldable and loyal to Chelsie than Angela would ever be. So for Chelsea's sake, I do think that it was probably best that Angela was the one voted out here, but for my sake, I'll admit I am a little heartbroken because Angela has just given us feedsters so much this season. Of course, she had plenty of flaws. She's probably the most polarizing contestant I've seen on the show in a while. But at the same time, she also had way more love and passion for the show than any other player I've ever seen. Sure, she was all over the place strategically most of the time, but she always stood on business too. And I think that Angela was by far the most cutthroat player in that entire cast. Honestly, Angela is probably the only Karen that I'll ever be able to stand. And again, I know that a lot of y'all out there didn't like her, but once you got used to all the crying and playing the victim all the time, she really was pretty fun to watch. So long, Angela, and thank you so much for bringing so much excitement to this season. Now there are only 5 players left standing, and out of the 5 of them, MJ is definitely the biggest target heading into this week, which makes it crazy that when the feeds came back after the HOH comp, we see that Makensy has won her second HOH of the season. Apparently, it was the tiny veto comp, but just as an HOH this time. Now, Makensy says that she didn't even want to win this week, but she should definitely be glad that she did. After all, her closest allies have low-key been plotting her demise behind her back. But Makensy's also loyal to a fault, so I think she's always going to see Chelsie and Cam as her ride or dies. So right off the bat, Makensy is going to decide to nominate Rubina and Kimo, with Kimo being her main target. This is of course the obvious choice, but I think from Makensy's perspective, this really feels like the only choice.
My question is, well, I guess I have to put Rubina next to him. Put Rubina next to him. In the event there's a replacement mirror cam. Yeah. That's all we have at this point. I almost wonder.
Makensy doesn't want to piss Rubina off too much though, so she's going to try to ease the pain by telling Rubina that she would use the veto on her.
So take yourself off. If you don't and somehow I win, I'm not afraid to use it. And I talked roughly to Chelsie, and she said that she would do whatever I want with the veto at this point, probably just because she wants stability.
Yeah.
And I would convince her and talk to her about using it on you as well. Like, I'm not afraid to do that.
So even though it is still unlikely, there is still a chance for something interesting to happen with the gameplay this week. Somebody like Chelsie or Cam could still technically go on the block, which would open the door for a lot of new possibilities, especially with this bomb that Rubina's about to drop. Like I had mentioned earlier, there were some whispers going around the house last week about how much of a threat MJ is. So Rubina is going to go up to MJ and tell her all about how Chelsie was okay with targeting her.
If it was me that won, Chelsie wanted me to try to put up.
Me?
Only because she mentioned how many wins you have.
Now, Rubina's not wrong here. Even though Chelsie had the opportunity and she did not take that shot herself, she would have been totally okay if somebody else did. But since MJ is loyal to a fault, it's still pretty risky for Rubina to even be bringing this up in the first place. Rubina has already planted the seed of doubt in MJ's mind, and what could help is if Kimo came up right behind her and watered it. So Kimo is the next up to have a one-on-one with MJ, and at this point, I'm really wondering and hoping that he'll do or say anything at all to keep himself safe this week. But as per usual, y'all, Kimo is just giving nothing. He doesn't try giving MJ any new information. He doesn't even try mentioning for Chelsie or Cam or anybody else to go up on the block. He literally just says that the only thing he has to offer MJ is a spot on the block as a pawn. Yikes.
All I have to offer really is like when you asked me to be a pawn. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I got to offer.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had more information.
No, you don't. Nobody like has to have information.
I really wish Kimo and Rubina would have figured out a way or strategized a way to tag team this or something. I mean, it still probably would have been a tough sell to MJ, but now that Kimo just isn't backing anything up, all that's doing is making Rubina look shady. So later on, when MJ goes to confront Chelsie about all this, Chelsie is able to easily and smoothly just defuse this bomb and pretty much blow off everything Rubina had said.
If I would have taken you out, the smartest thing would have been during the double pick.
Absolutely, because everybody would have been under the
time to talk.
Everybody would have been under the.
Exactly. So if I was going to take a shot, that would have been my shot to
No,
take.
and I'm aware of that, which is why when she's sitting here saying it, I'm like, she, one, protected me. I wasn't even probably an option. You put
Not even a first or a second or a third.
Yep.
Just like that, Chelsea's miss continues to hypnotize MJ, and now Rubina has a slightly bigger target on her back. Now, Kimo is still Makensy's prime target for the week, but that could easily switch up depending on who wins the veto. So that's all I have for today. At the time of this recording, the nominations still hadn't happened yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing Kimo and Rubina up on that block. Meanwhile, Chelsie just continues to dominate and out-strategize everybody. Honestly, right now, it's really hard to see anybody else but her winning this thing. But on the other hand, Chelsea's dominance has been pretty obvious to me at least. So there's still a small chance that somebody who's not MJ is able to wise up and try to get her out. But those opportunities are getting slimmer and slimmer by the day. Of course, I want to know, who do you think will win this whole game? Do you think Chelsea's going to be the one taking home the win, or do you think it'll be somebody else instead? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, I'll be back here to update you all if anything else big changes in the game, but until next time, bye.